Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for coming out tonight in the really, really disgustingly horrible weather. I really appreciate you coming out for an evening of Surreal Botany. It's called Dangerous Flora tonight. So this is going to be all about a field guide to Surreal Botany, which was a book that me and my wife Janet published with Two Cranes Press in July. And we have some of our contributors here tonight who are going to be reading and sharing their entries with you. I'm really excited. If you don't know me, my name is Erik Lundberg. I am the louder, less attractive, and more public half of Two Cranes Press. My wife Janet Chui is the smaller, more attractive, less public half. So, she is also, in addition to the editing and publishing of all the books that we do, she's also the art director as well. And all of the entries in this book were illustrated by her. And you can actually see we've got. You can actually see we've got a slideshow here. We might have one in the back later, but this has some of the different. Actually, I think it's got most of them, not all of them, but most of the entries in the book, the artwork, because it's a very visual book. So we're kind of reading at the different entries tonight, but it's good to actually see what they look like as well, see the illustrations, and also just to take a peek at the book too, because the way that she designed it, it's very kind of looks like it's been kind of left in a basement for a couple decades and found it by accident kind of thing. So so the visual part of it's very important. So so take a look at those. Just a couple things. One, please excuse me if I'm coughing up here. I've got a sinus infection and a bad cold. So, but we've got a couple of things that have happened recently. We had a book trailer that came out. Living Jacket is a media studio that actually worked with us to produce it, and it got put up on YouTube a couple days ago. So, so if you go to YouTube and actually not Google, but if you go to YouTube and search for Surreal Botany, you'll actually see the book trailer there, and you can see what it looks like. It's pretty cool. Also, tomorrow morning, really early tomorrow morning, I and a few of the people who are going to be reading here tonight are going to be appearing on Jim Freund's radio show, Hour of the Wolf. So if you're awake at 5 a.m., please tune in. I'll understand if you're not.
I will be. I'll be there, but I'll be
Yes, Olivia will be. If you're not, it will be streamed on the site live, but it'll also be archived as well. So if you're not able to catch it tomorrow morning, you can go to the website later and listen to that. So that should be a lot of fun as well. And kind of a nice thing that happened just today, found out that the journal Science did a review of Surreal Botany. So a little mention at the very back of the issue today. So we're very excited about that. So okay, all right. So just a little bit about the book. This was mostly Janet's brainchild, and it was a long process from the call for submissions to when we actually published it. It was about 2 years, during which we moved to Singapore. So this is the first time I've been in the States since it was a year ago. I came and visited for Christmas, but to see a lot of my Skiffy friends, it's been kind of a long time since then. So it's very nice to be here. So as far as the book goes, like I said, it's set up as a fictional field guide of all these strange and surreal plants, and we've got some really fascinating ones in here as well. And I am just going to read the introduction here. This will give you kind of a good idea of what the book is about as well. The world of surreal botany has long remained hidden. Since the 18th century, this field of study was often derided, even by trailblazing naturalists such as Carolus Linnaeus and Joseph Banks. The prejudice against the study of surreal plants has thus existed since the inception of botany and scientific classification. Many early discoverers of surreal plants, despite their enthusiasm, found themselves unable to collect, much less transport and propagate, their specimens, and this difficulty earned disbelief and disdain from their patrons and peers. Banks, while he was an advisor to the Royal Botanic Gardens, called such botanists cads, liars, and ingrates, for their fruitless voyages to the Far East and the New World were financed by Banks and the Crown. Serious, quote-unquote serious botanists, brought practical plants like breadfruit and purple basil back to England, while any botanists or assistants who dared to describe plants with, quote, magical and unverifiable properties, with no physical evidence, were threatened to be struck from the professional rolls. It was most likely due to this inhospitable political climate that the study of surreal botany went underground. It is not known if those serious botanists, whose contributions remain lauded to this day, never encountered strange plant specimens themselves, or were simply afraid of going against the grain after so much had already been made of the impossibility of surreal plants. Botanists were urged by prominent scientists not to betray the public's trust in science, in many a broadsheet of the time, particularly after frustrated budding botanists would sell reports of the surreal specimens to the newspapers, anonymously, for lack of other rewards for their work. Unfortunately, and not unexpectedly, it became harder and harder to ascertain if some of the printed reports were real or invented. In any case, the newspapers ceased publishing such articles when overwhelming protests arose against such lewd content about plant sexes and multiple husbands and bridal chambers, even if such concepts were raised in the context of botany. Victorian society could stomach only so much science. While most of modern society has progressed to become less bashful about sexuality, surreal botany is still regarded with suspicion. Sadly, serious gardeners and botanists interested in surreal plants may need to accept such incredulity as part of the nature of this field. That and the risk of life and limb, and sometimes sanity, that comes from investigating undocumented and possibly deadly or sentient plants. The publishers of this book believe that the time for remaining ignorant of surreal botany has come to an end. Personal safety alone would justify the information on some of these specimens coming to light, and readers will surely appreciate learning of the plants whose threats are lesser, or that are disappearing as the plants themselves become more rare. This book may be read and appreciated by gardening enthusiasts, paranormal investigators, and conspiracy theorists alike. The plant descriptions in this field guide were submitted by scientists whose bravery and dedication to surreal botany are to be applauded. We also congratulate them on their luck and survival and continued health. Alas, these congratulations cannot be extended to the book's illustrator. This was, after all, a job not without its risks, and painting and drawing 48 surreal plant specimens was too much to ask to happen without mishap. The artist currently fades in and out of physical existence, and claims to be able to see multiple pasts and futures at any one time. Such abilities are, however, less alarming than the random blooming of indigo flowers and stinging thorns from the skin, and, to wreak havoc with the artist's hay fever, the copious production of fine pollen. Frequent pruning is required. The editors and publishers take no responsibility for injuries that may result from seeking out the plants detailed in this field guide. Also, all characteristics of the plants may have been true at the time of documentation, but are subject to change. Okay, so we'll go ahead and move on to the readers here. If you'll take a look in the book, the entries are organized by region. So we've got the different, I think that it was the continents of the world, but then there were some that were unclassifiable that we just called worldwide. Sorry. So what we're going to do is basically go in order of the book. So we've got Christopher Savasco, who's going to be reading from his Time Cactus. Then Livia Llewellyn, who will be reading from. Stay there. Will be presenting her tessellated Salishan Evergreen. Erik Amundsen will talk about his Water Baby Cress. Chris Dykman will discuss her Nightmare Lotus. Susan Fedenek will talk about the Floating Armor of the Dark Blue Heart. John Bowker will talk about the Burning Bush Fungus. James Tramarco will introduce the Cloud Anemone. Steve Berman will talk about the Esimtep, I think that's how you pronounce it. And Matthew Kressel will talk about the Sembla. So if we could have Christopher Savasco to start us out.